Good morning, security gang, and welcome back to the CyberHub Podcast. My name is James Azar. I'm the host and Chief Information Security Officer. Thank you all for tuning in this morning, Monday, February 16th, 2026. I hope everyone had a good Valentine's Day. You overpaid for flowers, for chocolate, but you did it for love. And really, that's all that matters. You went out to busy restaurants, you ate some food, and then hopefully you went home and enjoyed some time with your loved ones. Good for you. I hope you enjoyed it. You know, these long kind of holiday weekends always bring out the best in people. It was funny because Saturday morning I made my way, funny story here, but I made my way to the local grocery store to pick up some stuff. And I'll tell you, I've never seen so many guys in a grocery store on a Saturday morning than I did this Saturday morning, buying flowers, chocolates, the whole nine. It was fantastic to see romance is still alive, folks. All right. Busy show today. We've got a lot to talk about, including 6 million telecom customers exposed in the Netherlands. Luxury brands find millions over breach failures. NATO calling for real cyber consequences against Russia and China. Google tying multiple nation-state actors to active campaigns. All of that and so much more on today's show. So let's get right into it. Over the weekend, I published our article late on Sunday morning, obviously. So that article's out there. It's not on the screen in front of you because this has been a really, really popular episode. The locked up lessons from the ransomware frontline with Zach Lewis. So go check it out on our website at cyberhubpodcast.com. And now I've got my double espresso. Coffee cup cheers, y'all. Fantastic. All right. Let's kick off with mobile Dutch carrier Odido experiencing a data breach that left 6.2 million customers as victims. This Netherlands telecom provider Odido disclosing the data breach that impacted approximately 6 million of its customers. That's essentially the national scale incident, a national scale incident according to reporting. Attackers gained unauthorized access to their internal systems and exfiltrated customer data, including names, contact details, and potentially additional identifying information tied to subscriber accounts. There's no indication of financial data exposure currently, but telecom data is incredibly valuable for SIM swapping accounts, account takeover, and even social engineering campaigns. The root cause of this one appears to be tied to compromised credentials or insufficiently secured internal access controls rather than a sophisticated zero-day exploit, with the risk here being large-scale identity-based fraud and downstream telecom targeted attack. If you were Odido, what would you be doing today to mitigate? Enforce strict privileged access management and real-time monitoring of internal administrative systems. Create a process to validate customer changes that could be misused and abused by fraud. So all of that would go a long way here. Again, there's no attribution as of yet to this attack, so we'll keep you posted when and if that becomes available. Well, Louis Vuitton, Dior, and Tiffany were all fined 25 million for failing to implement adequate security measures. These luxury giants were fined a combined $25 million over data breaches tied to customer data exposure in South Korea. Regulators determined insufficient security controls and poor data protection practices led to personal data being compromised. This wasn't just a technical failure, it was a governance failure as well. The breaches reportedly exposed customer information stored in retail or CRM systems, and regulators emphasized non-compliance with data protection obligations. The risk here is these regulatory fines are now matching or exceeding direct breach response costs, with the mitigation being you gotta align your data retention and storage practices strictly to business necessity, minimize what you keep and for how long, and comply with the laws in the nations you operate in. And when you're a multinational, one key thing is you can't have one CISO over everything. You really do got to either have regional CISOs or country-based CISOs based on revenue generated by said countries. Andy Ellis, formerly the CISO at Akamai and venture capitalist, just all around great guy. He says, companies should be getting a CISO at around, you get to like a series B if you're a startup. So at that point, you're already kind of generating around 100, 150, 200 million, 250 million in revenue. that's kind of the threshold to get someone locally. So if you do that in a specific market and you don't have a CISO, you really are kind of leaving yourself vulnerable there. Again, this is South Korea here, so there's some stuff there. All right. Over the weekend, the Munich Security security thing, whatever going on in Germany, with NATO saying we need to impose costs on Russia and China over cyber attacks. NATO's Deputy Secretary General publicly stated that the alliance must begin imposing tangible costs on Russia and China for cyber and hybrid operations. This is a shift in tone from deterrence language, which has long been ineffective, to consequence language. I wonder what brought the change there. The context here includes sustained Russian cyber activity against European infrastructure and ongoing Chinese espionage campaigns targeting government and industrial sectors. NATO's messaging is signaling a strategic pivot towards coordinated response mechanisms. Okay, so I'm going to stop here for just a second. Hello, NATO. Good morning. My name is James Azar. I've been doing this show this is episode 1061, about 7.5, 8 years. Welcome to the party. We've been knocking. You just haven't been answering. Welcome. Now, some would say that you risk escalation cycles between cyber operations and political retaliations. But what's the other side? A death by 1,000 cuts? Complete and absolute the ability to go through cyber operations with no consequences? That's been going on forever. The playbook isn't working. The name and shame campaign that President Obama came up with hasn't stopped anyone from doing it. It's, in fact, given them glory. They celebrate it on their internal chats. So how do you mitigate this thing? Multinational organizations need to strengthen cross-border incident coordination and legal preparedness for sanction-based disruptions. That's number one. Number two, if this is what NATO is signaling, mind you, there's cyber warfare is about to pick up, and we're all going to be watching it and impacted by it as it happens. So be mindful of that. The U.S. is also signaling consequences for malicious cyber actors. The U.S. government echoing similar themes to NATO, emphasizing consequences for state-aligned cyber actors. Officials are underscoring that disruptive cyber activity will increasingly trigger diplomatic and economic responses. This is going to align with the broader Western strategies linking cyber operations to sanctions, indictments, and coordinated law enforcement actions. If one good thing came out of Munich this weekend, beyond, Marco Rubio, that speech, my friend, that may go down as one of the best speeches a Secretary of State has ever given on foreign policy, foreign approach in American history. That is up there. That is up there. And you can obviously see the move here between NATO, the U.S., the influence of the Trump administration to say, we're not going to take this laying down. We're not going to say no hackbacks. We're going to start charging. And it's going to be significant. You could be looking at tariffs. You could be looking at visa limitations. You could be looking at shutting down consulates. You could be looking, there's a lot that could happen here, especially as they diversify from China. The EU and India signed a major trade agreement last week. And if you ignore all the trolls online and all the people who don't understand public policy, that trade agreement was directly driven by the United States. Not as a alternative bloc, but as India is going to supply you what you need so you don't have to rely on China. That's exactly what it was. And it's significant. All right. So here's the risk with this one. Corporate environments are going to become collateral pressure points in geopolitical disputes. So one, update your board, update your executive leadership, understand where you sit in this mess, and make sure you're prepared for it. And if you're operating globally, you should conduct risk assessments for geopolitical exposure within your supply chains and even your subsidiaries to make sure you get that covered. All right, we'll continue. Geopolitics here, folks. It's strong over the weekend. Google linking China, Iran, Russia, and North Korea to ongoing campaigns taking place in somewhere out there in the cyberspace. Google releasing research tying actors from China, Iran, Russia, and North Korea to active cyber campaigns that are targeting political, defense, and technology sectors. The report is highlighting credential phishing, infrastructure compromise, and even supply chain infiltration. This isn't theoretical. These are active campaigns here. So let's kind of go through this. They're noting that some of the notable threat actors that are participated in the activity is APT44, aka Sandworm, attempting to exfiltrate information from Telegram and Signal, and doing that in the Ukraine. Temp Vermin or UAC002020 using malware like Vermoster and Spectrum, and Firm a change end using lore content revolving around drone production and developing anti-drone systems. You can attribute that one to Iran. UNC 5125, aka Flying Yeti, or UNC 0149er, conducting highly targeted campaigns focusing on frontline drone units. Again, look at Iran, look at Russia. UNC 5125, also leveraging Android malware called Great Battle, a bespoke version of Hydra, banking Trojan to steal credentials and spoofing Ukrainian military artificial intelligence. UNC 57902, exploiting secure messaging apps to target Ukrainian military. Hello, Russia. UNC 4221, also targeting secure messaging apps used by Ukrainian military personnel. UNC 5976, a Russian espionage cluster. UNC 6096, a Russian espionage cluster, also conducting malware delivery operations through WhatsApp. UNC 5114, suspected Russian espionage cluster. APT 45, targeting South Korea defense, semiconductor, and automotive. APT 43, that's Comiskey, targeting infrastructure mimicking German and U.S. defense-related entities to deploy a backdoor called Thinwave. UNC 2970, also known as the Lazarus Group, Operation Dream Job campaigns targeting aerospace, defense, and energy sectors, in addition to relying on AI tools for reconnaissance. UNC 1549er, that's Nimbus Manticore, targeting aerospace, aviation, and defense industries in the Middle East with malware families like Minibike, Two-Stroke, Deeproot, and Crash Pad. This is also Lazarus there. UNC 6446, an Iranian Nexus, using resume builder and personality test applications to distribute custom malware in aerospace and defense verticals across the U.S. and Middle East. UAPT 5, that's Keyhole Panda or Mulberry Typhoon, targeting current and former employees of major aerospace and defense contractors. UNC 3236, that's Vault Typhoon, targeting critical infrastructure from China. And UNC 6508, another China Nexus threat cluster that's targeted US-based research institutions. That's a lot. And all of those are active, folks. You got to deploy continuous threat hunting programs focused on identity anomalies and lateral movement indicators. If you don't, consider yourself warned. All right. We'll move to fake job recruiters hiding malware in coding challenges as part of a hiring spree there. Threat actors are now posing as recruiters. They're sending developers coding challenges that actually contain embedded malware. The attacker exploits trust within professional networking contexts like LinkedIn. Developers download and execute malicious code under the guise of an assessment task. The risk here being targeted compromise of engineering environments and source code repositories. To mitigate this one, you should implement strict sandbox testing environments for evaluating external code submissions as part of your hiring process. Okay. This story is significant. It's probably why you tuned in this morning. 300 malicious Chrome extensions were leaking data in the Chrome store. There are researchers uncovering more than 300 malicious Chrome extensions that were leaking or even stealing user data. Many had significant install counts. These extensions abused browser permissions to exfiltrate browsing activity and even session tokens, with the risk here being browser-based session hijacking, bypassing traditional endpoint controls. To mitigate this one, enforce enterprise browser extension allow list rather than open installation policies. That'll go a long way there as well. ClickFix, for their end, are up and at it again using NS lookup for DNS-based payload retrieval. The ClickFix campaign has now evolved yet again, abusing NS lookup commands to retrieve PowerShell payloads through DNS. It's clever because DNS traffic often blends into normal operations. Attackers trick users in executing commands that silently fetch malware, with the risk being command and control hiding plain and legitimate DNS activity. To mitigate this one, enable DNS query logging with anomaly detection for encoded or suspicious TXT record lookup. That'll go a long way there. The next story we have here is the OpenSea 0 day that's being taken advantage of here in the wild with an active exploit chain. The researchers identified a 0-day exploit chain affecting OpenSea infrastructure, potentially enabling unauthorized account access or even manipulation. While details are still emerging, the flaw could have exposed NFT marketplace users to account compromised or asset theft, with the risk here being crypto platform exploitation leading to irreversible asset loss. To mitigate this one, implement mandatory hardware-based MFA for high-value digital asset accounts in your environment. And our final two stories of the day here: Google tying a suspected Russian actor to another active campaign that's taken place here. This is the CANFAIL one targeting Ukrainian organizations. Google is attributing to the activity to a suspected Russian actor conducting targeted campaigns that involves phishing infrastructure and malware delivery. These operations appear aimed at political or critical sector targets, attribution strength, intelligence sharing, but also increases geopolitical tension. Again, the Ukrainians are on the front line of the cyber attacks by Russia, and everything we see in Ukraine will eventually make its way elsewhere. Right now, that's where the Russian focus is. And our final story this morning before we send you off to have a merry week, everyone, and we'll be back obviously tomorrow. But Check Point announcing a trio of acquisitions. Check Point has announced 3 acquisitions: Cyata, Cyclops, and Rotate. These are coming amid strong earnings. This signals consolidation in cybersecurity markets as vendor race to expand AI, cloud, and threat intelligence capability. Nadav Tzafrir, the new CEO at Check Point, he doesn't really waste time, right? He's also acquired Lakira AI for $190 million in Q4. So all in all, the Check Point services continue to increase. They reached $2.7 billion in revenue, up 6% from last year. So seems like handing the reins to Nadav Tzafrir is starting to pay some dividends for our friends over at Check Point. Congratulations, Nadav and team, and everyone for those acquisitions. That's it for our show today. We'll be back tomorrow at 9 a.m. Eastern live with all the latest. Thank you all for tuning in. Make sure to subscribe, share, like, comment, and follow. And if you've got anything, please let us know either through LinkedIn, YouTube, or our Substack at cyberhubpodcast.com. Have a great rest of your day. Have a great week. And most importantly, y'all, stay cyber safe.
We love feedback, so make sure to connect with us on social media and subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcast listening platform.